introducing another organization to the stage, let's give a warm Paterson Poetry Festival round of applause for Cav and Carry Press. Day by day? Yes, sir.
And you do look really good in that t-shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello again, everyone. So now I'm coming to you with my Cav and Carry Press hat on. My name is Dimitri Reyes, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director at Cav and Carry Press. I am in charge of programming as well as liaising with our authors and making sure that people know about us. Cav and Carry Press has been around now for 23 years in New Jersey, based out of Fort Lee and Brooklyn. Our work explores the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life, and we're a publisher of poetry and memoir. This is probably my favorite part about my job because I get to connect authors to the general public, and sometimes there are authors not published with us either yet or in conversation with the rest of our folks. So we have two Cav and Carry Press authors, which they will be here with us today, and we also have two community authors that are friends of the press and personal friends of myself. The first person I also met several years ago when I was beginning my poeting career, and their work is just so lush and lustrous and filled with music and has so much energy and has so much life. And I am so happy that I can call her and her husband my dear poetry family and my poetry friends. Please give it up for Grisel y Acosta.
Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing? Great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a Saturday, and you could be anywhere, and you're here to listen to poetry. So thank you so much for that. Yes. I'm going to be sharing 3 poems with you. My father, when he was alive, hailed from Colombia, South America, and I don't like how they depict Colombia in all of these narco shows that people love so much. So this is a poem about that. The biggest narco poem ever is a poem that has piles and piles of white powder we all stuff into our faces because that is the gluttony our movies and streaming shows insist upon. So we celebrate with our hands on our hearts, summits of ground crystals on our noses, and our sights set on 1,000 waving flags as jets spray Agent Orange in formation, annihilating the emerald mountains of Colombia without a care about the birds, rivers, humans who happen to inhabit what's maybe a coca field. Most likely it's not a coca field, but maybe it's a coffee field, and that raising of the beans just makes our lattes more expensive. Damn, drug war is such a nuisance. I mean, can't those people just stop growing what the news says they're growing? Didn't they go to college or something? Of course not. They probably live in a hut or a ditch or dive into the ocean and bite fish with their bare teeth, teeth as white as processed coke. The short-ass druggies, thank God for borders like scars on a face, like a sweaty, greasy face, greasy hair, big hands to cut your throat, Colombian necktie style, severing the mind and heart, filled with rivers of darkness, weaving through the jaguar jungle, danger all around the bad hombres with big buckles, as large as their mansions, with wives and daughters who are just as vicious and ignorant and conniving, all without being able to read somehow, perpetually in quinceañera frilly clothing and coifs that defy humid guava air, putting on airs because of all their gold, gold on fingers, gold on ears, gold in incisors and molars, so much gold we left behind because the cafe and nose candy took its place. These Joses are all Jose Dos, no names, because how do you name a phantom covered in snow? I don't know. I don't know if this is narco enough. What will convince you? A man in a villa with a furrowed brow, a woman in red lipstick with a machete called Griselda, a bomb under a vehicle, and a colombiano with a German name, children who hate their parents and roll their eyes, trips to Miami where everyone buys, a haul of designer clothing, private schools in Switzerland where the heirs frighten the good white folk, mugshots on CNN or Fox or PBS, a millennia of these images every second, every day. You can't refute it with a poem about my abuela. The wall grows and grows, yet you know the whitest thing about cocaine is that a gringo party person who always has a tray of it. Thank you so much. These are new poems, so these are coming out in a forthcoming collection, hopefully, called Wild. My next poem is much more personal, and I think it'll be self-explanatory. We are trying to jail our social service workers. The YouTube judge presiding my brother's case looked at the camera more than at the man whose life he scrutinized and said, "You can't take one specific thing and think it defines a situation." I agree with this statement, so I share the spiral of information circling the precedent that will inevitably create a desert of dust, clouds, and smoke around a system that wasn't already working. My brother lives in McHenry County, Illinois. During the last election, he was the first Latino elected to its board because of his efforts to draw new Latino voters via registration drives that blued the last red vestiges of fascism in an area where more and more Latinos have planted themselves. In his leadership role, my brother criticized the local incarceration of undocumented migrants who created a $10 million cash grab for the county jail, asking, "Is there a profit motive behind putting mi gente in these beds?" Then, not surprisingly, my brother's work as a social worker was attacked. You cannot take one specific thing and think that defines a situation. It's easy to say social workers are not doing their job, like a bee or a migrant being forced to work while breathing the roundup of white supremacy. The challenges are life-killing. Someone will end up dead. Quote, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services reported an investigator vacancy rate of 21.2%, up from 8.8% last year. Quote, child deaths involving the Illinois DCFS increased by 40% in the last fiscal year. Quote, when caseloads are 50% higher than they're supposed to be, you don't have time to think things through. The, quote, average caseload for DCFS investigators is between 12 and 15. My brother had 21. So of course, my brother's love was stretched on the defunded rack of social service bureaucracy and exhaustion, and so of course, a poor child died at the hands of his parents. We will forever live with this tragedy. I will live with the fact that a white judge decided that my brother was guilty of neglect. The Latino DCFS worker, not his white boss, without reviewing how my brother's work changed the racist culture in the county that questioned his own right to live there. Without reviewing how we were brought up in the church by a minister father whose work was commended by Chicago's mayor. Without reviewing how my brother worked his DCFS job, his county board job, his therapy job, all to pay for his home, his daughter's education, often doing the cooking and cleaning. Without considering that my brother will be sentenced 2 days before our mother's birthday. Once when we were kids, I got in trouble for leaning my chair back during dinner, not very ladylike or respectful. My parents condemned me to my room, but my brother, without my knowing, came to my defense and said, "She didn't do anything that bad." My parents, shocked by his appeal, took back the punishment. I thanked him while we watched Inspector Clouseau on TV fumble the law and get away with it. You cannot take one specific thing and think that defines a situation. What will define my brother now? His master's degree from the University of Chicago, the fact that he built the most beautiful airplane models as a child, his gentle nature, never complaining about his workload, the fact that he was an excellent swimmer and saved lives as a lifeguard, his broad smile and wicked sense of humor, the fact that once when we were kids, he knew nothing about laws. Without prompt, he argued for what was right. He argued for me. Today, I argue for him. Take the specific thing that defines this situation. We are not here to make you feel better about your own sins. My brother is not guilty of neglect. You are well aware of the impossibility of life without pouring wealth and joy into social services. We are not your scapegoat. We will continue to vote despite your interrogations. We will continue to exist. We will continue to do beautiful work. We will continue. This is the one and only very specific thing you can count on forever. So yeah, that's about my brother and how he was found guilty by a racist judge for a death that parents are already in jail for. So he's a social worker, and it sets a terrible precedent to jail our social workers when they are already overworked. My last poem is to my mother, Revolution Mommy. When I invited Mommy to a restaurant dinner with activists, they ignored her, left her sitting quietly with her soup, stirred boiled anger in me. Didn't they know or know to ask what she did? Bravery isn't conferences and panels and books. Mommy in college read every day alone in her bed, wasn't very social except when she met Papi, who noticed she didn't talk much, but when she did, it was brilliant. Papi went to my grandfather's flimsy wooden Cuban shack and asked for Mommy's hand. Abuelo denied the marriage, said, "Tú eres muy negro." Mommy married Papi anyway. Didn't speak to Abuelo for 20 years. She lived in Barranquilla, the Colombian jungle, Princeton, then Chicago with Papi. A photo of her when I was born has her looking away from the camera despite the huge smiles on my father's and brother's faces, as if they don't see what she gave up, created. La guitarra is what brought her back to the world, me. Her kinky-haired Afro child, Santana, La Sonora Matancera, Paco de Lucia, Piel Canela, cinnamon skin, the soaked wooden curves of sound she listened to on her bed on Saturday mornings while I read her books in Spanish. The child she was unafraid to give birth to, representation of love of a black man who fell in love with her mind, the sound of her voice. Mommy, rubbing Vicks on my chest at 4 a.m. Mommy, making me eggs for dinner when I didn't want red meat. Mommy, spending too much money on my classic Hollywood prom dress. Mommy, singing the music of West Africa, Spain, Cuba, in her ramshackle Logan Square bedroom. Mommy, giving up family to create new family, revolution love. And Papi, not seeing what she sacrificed because she lived to give, like a singer gives until the voice is gone. Mommy, ignored by fashion revolutionaries who see her as just an old lady who hasn't done much. Mommy, the one who embraced the blackness in her husband, in her daughter, because she knew her love was the only flag that matters, the only country without borders or castes. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you, Queen and Paterson Poetry Festival, and Dimitri, of course. Thank you, Kevin Carey.
Let's give another round of applause for Grisel. Thank you. Okay, so we have our next featured performer, not from Cavan Carey Press, but we would be lucky to have them. I met Shan Pulusan years ago when we first started the City Verses program with NJPAC, which was a jazz and poetry program for students and the public in the city of Newark and beyond. Since then, Shan has continued to write, and Shan now works for NJPAC, and I just can't wait for you all to hear her set. Ladies and gentlemen, Shan Pulusan.
Do I have to adjust this? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Paterson Poetry Festival, all at Cavan Carey. Big shout out to Dimitri, my friend and fellow poet in New Jersey. I'm going to be sharing a few poems. I'm a champion at short poems, so here we go. The first one is titled BB, which is a term of endearment that I share with friends. And in this poem, I think about what BB stands for. BB. Thank you. All set? Sweet. Thanks so much. BB. Baby, bok choy, balance beam, Busan blue, bonus blooper. Big booty, big brain, bright bulb. BB. Bruised, berry, best, best. Boba ball, bedbug, boxer brief, banh mi bite. BB. Bound, book, better version, blurry vision, bagong beginning. BB. Booming bass, breathy ballad, blushing bear, bibimbap. BB. Home text. Have you eaten? It's raining over here. I'm glad we picked ginkgo leaves yesterday. I'm glad you're my person, BB. Of every name, of everything, blessed and blessed. BB, everything okay.
Woo!
The next poem is called Brilliance. Love is brilliance. I've seen it glimmer as the ferries came and went on the Hudson. The water at sunset, a net of light we gathered in our still gaze. I untangle it often, wind the golden strands into skeins, crochet brilliance into a hat, into a long chain, add pom-poms. What is a scarf but love in 1,000 repeated stitches? Warmth round and round, fringed in favorite colors. You like cool blues, like the ocean, like denim creases lightening over time, like when we knelt on the shore and you taught me how to distress jeans with a gritty tide. Love, I know its pulse, in the pause we take to consider what we'd eat if there were no consequences. I'd have potatoes in every form. You say you'd eat plastic, styrofoam even. And what is wisdom but that very answer? Brilliant. What is a song but an impulse to dance silly at whatever tempo? What are our differences but lessons on how to better hold this world? What is a nickname but one of the many ways to call each other and answer to each one? My next poem is an Ars Poetica, which means it's a poem about poetry. And this is about me thinking back on my first poem I've ever written, and oftentimes our first elementary poem is a haiku. And so I'm thinking of satisfying 575 syllables, but I don't think the reality or the fiction that I'm creating. So I wrote this poem that's like thinking of deer as that they can eat fish, but actually deers are herbivores, so that is a fatal flaw in that poem. So this poem is called At Age 9, I Imagined Deer. A fourth grader in New Jersey counts syllables and writes her first poem. A deer in the woods, hunting with its family, sees a fish to snag. How proud the young poet to imagine a scene never seen or even possible. Wonder is a haiku that doesn't bother with whatever else may be truer. Like how deer have been seen waiting in the Hudson, not for drink, but to arrive to another state. Like how the night road glows with herds of wakeful eyes and passing cars. Like how horrific it'd be for deer to taste what swims against their hooves, as if the earth couldn't bear enough. The rose bush in the family garden buds with promising pink. But as soon as a rose blossoms, it's cut clean from the stem, gone in a blind spot blink, and so the young poet builds another reality, to reason this continued lost, believes it's revenge by someone who probably knew the rose bush didn't grow from seed. A grandmother, like her own grandmother, may have snipped the soft wood and wished for her own garden to root. Or maybe the rose only blooms for the empty-handed lover. Call him Mamaru, call him Tuxedo Mask, the valiant boy who cheers the kind-hearted in the name of the moon or the sun that shines as witness. It could have been a deer that bit the new flower, a Staten Island deer who visits Jersey City to be there the moment when petals break open green fists. A rose is a rose is a rose, despite who possesses it. Let the auntie from suburbia go on saying deer eat flowers double the freckles on their coat. Let that be closure, or one truth. Let the poet doodle a pink fish in the mouth of an antlered deer, next to another antlered deer she believes is the mother. A deer is a deer is a deer, stay along the stream. With the pink fish, salmon, the bubbling of a silent letter, every syllable and every shape resounding sense to the poet, still young with questions. Where there are two fallen branches, imagine deer and what's between. The next poem is called Once Upon a Time, but it's spelled a little funny. Follow me. WANSAPANATAYM, Once Upon a Time, which is a Filipinization of the phrase Once Upon a Time. It was a title of a fantasy anthology TV series that I grew up watching. Okay. Once Upon a Time. A daughter in the nook of her childhood was a practice daughter for her aunties. She held Game Boy under lamplight, learned to square her nails, savored stories about life near the warm belly of the earth. When she turned 8, she held her breath underwater and lived beyond the age of an uncle who once drowned. She'd fit a Barbie tennis ball in her left nostril, press a finger to close the right, and blow. It was a challenge to launch the ball into a dollhouse cup. Once, she inhaled. The ball stuck inside her nose. And for a moment, the little girl was ready to live with it. Her aunt busy on the phone. Once upon a time, words like mediocre and disappointment were just string fallen on the ground. Loops pronounced into pressures, given a parent's stern tone. It's not too late to pull that string, unthread, flatline something so malleable, drape it like power lines along the streets where birds will perch, and I'll pretend I could read the song of those silhouetted birds. Play piano with the deft of memory, be delighted, today is the future.
Woo.
Thank you again for coming to this rain check dates and new location. I'm a fan of rainy days, but I think this is too excessive. This short poem is called Water Cycle. In the morning, the day's seconds fall as torrential rain. You wake to the sound of rice spilling from our ancestors' hands. Their incessant taps, a progression that fills a family home. Answer back, your hand a warm shape on the cool glass, intention spelt with mirrored letters. Remember them now. Move like sunlight through the day. Work hard until every puddle evaporates. Wait for a reply. Thank you.
Thanks, Shan. It's great to hear your work. And we're gonna keep it going with the great work. This next individual actually helped me get my job at Cav and Carey Press. I didn't even know about Cav and Carey Press until she mentioned it to me. So thank you so much for that, Tina. Tina has been poeting for a while in the community. She is a well-known writer, not only with poetry, but also in journalism. And she's just an all-around great person to know. If you're looking for a contact, or if you're looking for an idea, I think you can float it over by Tina, and she's either gonna say, oh, I got something, or I don't know, you gotta ask someone else. But either way, it's great that I could call Tina Kelley my friend, and I cannot wait to hear her work. And Tina Kelley is one of the Cav and Carey Press authors. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Dimitri. It was such an honor to have you be part of Cav and Carey. You've made it like so amazing while you've been here, and it's an honor to know you. And he's right, I am an extrovert caught in an introvert's life, so I'm happy to talk to people about their ideas, because being a newspaper reporter based in my own sofa is not exactly what I signed up for, but our newsroom is not back since the pandemic, and I was lucky to get away at 3 when my shift actually ended to get here in time. I am excited to read from my most recent Cav and Carey book. It's called Rise Wildly. Cav and Carey treats you like a spa treatment with your manuscript, and I say that all the time, but it's very soft cover. It's got the little flap to keep your place, and they edit your poems in a way that I'd never experienced before. So if you have a manuscript, please send it our way. And I'm going to start with something my daughter said. My daughter is now 22, and that surprises me somehow. How did that happen? But she called today just to talk, and it made me excited because I'll always take her call even if I'm on deadline. This is something she used to say. Please bring a moon. Kate loves the moon. I carry her. She throws her head back and tilts up her chin to watch. I see its reflection in her perfect new eyes. She holds her hand up in greeting. This reminds me how the moon's its own cocoon, how hard it is to explain, how the world would manage perfectly fine without it and its changes, its hiding in clouds, its 2-week disappearances, awfully long when you're a year old. I used to count each new crescent as a step closer to her birth. I used to know where end of the moon lane is. I once saw 2 owls flying across a field on the full moon, and a few minutes later, a feather floating down from the sky. I caught it. I will tell her, but will she tell her child? What would a baby moon be called? Moonlit, moonling, and how would it hatch? Will she watch it from the back seat, a constant with trees passing through like thread? This is another one from her a little later. On the Lackawaxen with Kate, 2008. Should she be 7 at this point? Wading in the river with my 7-year-old daughter, my usually obstreperous, I won't brush my teeth girl. I see her looking at me adoringly. How dear, engaged, winning. She likes me for once this gorgeous day. Then I realize, no, she's mugging at her reflection in my sunglasses. I am merely a wall for her to bounce herself off, a learning tool, an object she uses to see herself, adore herself. I say, you're looking all lovey-dovey at you, not me. We laugh together. She replies, "The name Debbie gives me the impression of a webbed foot stomping on a puddle." When Daddy calls on his way to us that night, she tells him, "I want to sing you a kiss." All we can do is write it down and help her love herself for all the best reasons. This is one of my journalism poems called Watching All the Way Home from a Tough Interview, seat 28A. LA's a giant microchip, a much of muchness, no green or shade, what 3.8 million of us look like. Then, below, desert, gray dust, my source's prospects. Slowly, hills, trees, a high basin, and west-facing cliffs, red tinged like a canyon, the place I'd land, given the coordinates. How big are those farm fields, and why? Cars move like minutes, and Bibel's Ave Maria, a cappella over the tiny whiskey, glides, a songworm soundtrack. Down there lie well-worn places where folk songs are true. Moon-colored horse, voters for those other candidates, a barn, a stunning cardinal flower, legato. Still others in prisons, alternate lives. That other paper that offered to hire me, where I lived in a brick house painted white, where I got into grad school and married that guy in Michigan, had too many kids, and learned to cook well. Over there, look, maybe a hearse on its way to a funeral with no cars behind it with lights on. Outbuildings in Indiana-ish, a farmed island in Lake Erie, a restroom break over Ohio, and 6 minutes total cloud cover. Why so clear? East, an acceleration of clutter, scars in the Pennsylvania trees from roads overgrown in the woods, subdivisions. After the pilot said we were 75 miles east of Newark, I saw those odd Pocono ski slopes, the corporate headquarters I grew up near. Yes, the church where I was baptized and married. I wonder, what will I see as I drift down to sleep? Light jewels on velvet earth, houses, luck, dear bodies sleeping, parallel, perpendicular, home.
Beautiful.
That was actually happened. I mean, that actually happened. It was the weirdest thing to be able to take a 5.5 hour flight and be able to see everything, except for those few minutes of clouds. I think this one is relevant. I wrote it after 9/11, but there's so much going on that reminds us of that time. It's called See Something, Say Something, Penn Station. And I was thinking, what if you actually said something every time you saw something at Penn Station? Because it's such sensory overload. So, suspect commuters, hundreds of them. National Guard guys whose camo doesn't work. It needs to be neon, or fast food yellow and red, or pinstripe, or Burberry plaid. Krispy Kreme, guy rooting his wiggly pinky deep into his ear. Bookstore, knobby man in pink tutu, on a dare or coming out. Kid perching on a backpack, looking. Hudson News, angry career women in stilettos with no one to rub their feet at night. Officer, I see a pregnant woman. Old guy sitting beneath a gray smudge on the wall. Halo of hair oil and grime, always here. Kicked cigarette butt skittering like a rat. German shepherd with nothing it wants to sniff. Crowd pulled from every direction to 4 doors, fast. Sorry. Lady hoisting a stroller upstairs. Guy passing her glare, muttering, "It ain't my fucking kid." Really happened. A yawp and a man shuffling, no socks. 90 business sections in the trash. Same stockings on mannequin legs for the last 15 years. Rifles of guardsmen. no unattended packages. Every day I forget to be very afraid. I'm going to do a found poem, again from my daughter. Somehow having kids is one of the most inspiring things I ever did, because I just steal from them all the time. Do years come back? Can you wear lava? Can you drink lava? Is there a round river? Is lightning upside down or right side up? Does Addie miss us in heaven? Do cows get married? Is the sun alive? I'm touching God and the year. I love you so dumb much. The cardinal sounds like a tambourine. I love you too much for you to die. Can you build the world out of bricks? What's the air made of? How do eyeballs see? Can you have blue-green hair? Won't you be my garden? He hit me, and it's due unto others as you would have others do unto you, so he wants me to hit him. I am as clean as a daisy. I am as warm as a daisy. Let's call the cat Dissimanganophis. When is God's birthday? Do any birds eat leaves? Is the ocean an animal? Why is one first? Thank you. That applause goes to my kid. It's all her. And I'm going to end up with a dozen secrets from God. A baby giggles on average 400 times a day. I can help you add sand to your hourglass. Church has gotten me wrong. Think of me more as the cutest thing possible, as if your all-time favorite dogs time traveled and had a puppy together, and raising me gently is your only job. I am the one exclamation point hidden in your encyclopedia. In my next universe, hummingbirds will sound like thumb pianos. I am that fountain you didn't have time to visit at the Hilltop Castle Garden, and you probably won't be back, but you remember it more clearly than if you had thrown coins in. Caution, low-flying owls and expectations. Count how often each year you let rain fall on your face. When your dog is listening to you, he's not frustrated. He doesn't wish he knew what you were saying. You sound to him the way birds sound to you. You're simply chirping. The stars are just glints shining through a blurry lens. I am the big thing shining behind. And you are wine for the eyes. Thank you.
Woo! So much, Tina Kelley. Let's clap it up a little more while I have to change the space for a second. So our last reader for our set over here is another lovely voice to the community, and this reader I actually met. She's been with Cav and Carey for a very, very long time. Eloise, when did Rattle come out? Was that 2004? Ah, see, I'm earning my paycheck. Yes, it was 2004. And Eloise has been really pertinent and important with literary education that happens for our high school community in the state of New Jersey. And Eloise, I believe you were actually one of the Dodge poets as well. Am I correct by saying that? Yeah, see? So I've done my homework. Eloise has been doing a lot for the community, and she still does. And she's actually going to be reading from her 2004 collection, Rattle. Ladies and gentlemen, Eloise Bruce. Stage center, nice in the spotlight. Give me a little mic check.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. Sounds good, awesome. So I'm so happy to be here. And I love Paterson. And I was just talking about the falls yesterday. I have a bunch of friends that teach here in Paterson. And so I'm just delighted to be here with everybody. As Dimitri said, this book is, it's from my middle age, and I'm not that anymore. So what I'm going to do is read mostly from this book and then maybe one or two new things. So several years ago, when I was working on this, I looked at my altitude and my latitude and my longitude for my place of birth. And I wrote poems that did all of that. So I'm going to read the latitude one to you, and it's called Latitudinal. My grandfather left Texas on a cattle boat when he was 13, knowing full well there were 4 dimensions: latitude, longitude, altitude, and gender. No fool he. He used the Southern Cross to find his way. When he crossed the equator, the sea was less salty, but not his tears. I was born breech. The umbilical cord round my neck spit into my grandfather's hands at 32 3/4 degrees north latitude, a world of red clay, piney woods, hydrangeas, camellias, bougainvillea, magnolia called opelika. I know how to travel feet first. When my latitude stretched out from me running east over the place of my lost virginity, past Charleston and sipping through the Sargasso Sea, I pretended to be damaged. The earth always spinning. I hit land in Morocco and slid under and dipping in and out of Homer's wine-dark sea into Palestine. The roots of the blood orange tree dug into my latitude. It would be many years before I measured the circumference, but I would, and marry the son of a Jew, and so on, back to the beginning. I sailed through more sandy saline deserts, into the Fertile Crescent. I would never bear my own child. No help from compasses here, where in the name of family honor, girls are being murdered. I traced a route through the mountains, Kashmir, high Himalayan peaks, Tibet, where babies are killed for being born female. Past Shanghai, Uzu Trench, Musician Seamount, over faults where fish with no eyes swim. I learned to manage ebb and flow. I was hot and thirsty when I passed through Tijuana and Mexicali into the desert home stretch, past a Papago woman holding her baby she loves. I saw cantaloupes growing in the Pecos and spied the place where my daddy would total his car, hitting a huge sow near my other grandfather's house in Louisiana. I crossed the Mississippi at Tallulah and headed home to Alabama, on through Utah, EUTAW, where I joined the NAACP, and my cousin died from a kick in the head from a horse. I learned that the very same place can house choice and happenstance. I skidded over wet and dry earth, naked, my bones my sextant, a female born on a dangerous line, trying to position myself in starlight. On my latitude, men have thrown acid in women's faces. I cannot fathom that it takes generations for our skin to adjust to latitude. I was born full of tears, and like God, I have eyes. Halloween's coming up, so I thought I would do a Halloween poem. This is called Halloween in the High Mountain Desert. Gladys asked me to stay until night, when all the colors of the earth gathered, not ghosts or witches, but colors. Each year she filled her pumpkin patch with giant creatures fashioned from wire and dyed feathers, sort of elephants, cows, dinosaurs, giraffes, and buffalo. I wondered why she made no birds. Once I knew 3 witches, all called Jane. The heaviest one loved to cast spells, hence the altars to Lilith, Colette, and the Holy Mother. I spent the night in their attic with their sacred oils and animal-shaped candles for making magic. More than anything, they wanted to fly. Gladys wouldn't have known Colette from cabbage. Gladys Bicklehawk raised chickens, and over the years there were so many feathers. With a couple of shots of bourbon in my belly, I spent the afternoon dancing around her pumpkins, trying to keep my feet warm and making wishes. Carloads of children came and went. The air quivered with infinity times 3. At moonlight rise, I thought about remaining there forever, dancing in a feathered dress. The moon was gigantic and orange over the fuchsia buffalo, and the cow as blue as the ocean of my own childhood. There were so many feathers, a lifetime of them. All things are possible, a turquoise tiger told me just before he unfurled his wings. So my husband's here, and I just wanted to read a love poem to him.
Hi, David.
My husband is also a Kevin Carey author, so I thought I would include him. And I'm going to include one other Kevin Carey writer. This is called My Husband and the Octopus. And this isn't in this book, this is after. 3 hearts pumping your pale blue blood. You rest all silvery blue, one with water. I gaze in at you, but it is my husband you are longing for. So he approaches you, flushed the color of chocolate and bloom, your tentacles writhing like snakes caressing each other, squirming close to your mantle and suddenly exploding and reaching out all at once to touch the glass in front of his face. You desire to feel and smell his skin. He touches the glass and you spread yourself wide, the only bony part, your beak flushing red, tiny tendril tips undulating with unimaginable grace. You follow his hands up, and as they part, you stretch out around the curve of the tank. He wonders at your beauty, and I at your loneliness. He needs a shave. I kiss him. He tastes of salt. Next. Jack Weiler I think he published shortly before he died with the press, and so he's another Kevin Carey author. He died of HIV/AIDS. Bathing Jack. If you die of this stupid disease, I'll toast you, slinging my full glass in your face. You told me I could enjoy it too. I promised to drop Hal down your bare spine, one word at a time, wash you in mother's milk. Before you got sick, Peter found the bear pit, but gave it to you. You took the curious there to see the rotting cows left as bait. You love the notion of hunters baiting bears and used it to seduce all comers. As freaky as you, the end of a double rainbow plunged into the meadow. Bathed in its irony, you jogged through the arch, returning from the bear pit, a sweating stranger in tow. 3. It's raining buckets, not rum, semen, or urine, blood, spit, or gasoline, but cold mountain water. In the smiling photograph, you are barbecuing back of the lodge after the sky opened up. Any minute, you could drown in the tears of your lovers. I'm not sure about reading this one, but I'm just going to do it because it kind of makes me laugh, and it's an excellent memory. It's called Moon Over Alabama. Then you were a pretty man named Rusty with a few tales to tell your grandbabies, and a bunch of us students were riding on the university bus when somewhere just this size of Talladega, we started the dares and double dares. Everybody was laughing so hard our sides ached, and the bus bounced southwest toward Tuskegee. And over there in the governor's mansion, George Wallace thought he was ruling us all. When your eyes caught mine, and we seized the dare, tore down our jeans and pressed our backsides up against the rear window of that bus. And you can tell anybody you want, I would never have done it if you had been white, no matter how pretty you were. Let's see, I should have numbered these, but how are we doing for time up there? 2 more. All right, 2 more. Okay, 2 more. This one is also a little strange, you guys. So I love birds, and I write myself a birthday poem every year, and this is a birthday poem that I wrote for myself one year in bird language, mostly. It's called The Warbler's Song. The emphatic, hurry, 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 over a burst of wheezy, wheezy, wheezy. Its name trills somewhere far off, amid the chatter of cheery, cheery, chip, chippity, sweet, ditchity, ditchity, chirwoo, with you, with you, with you, choo, 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 weejo, woo. Someone is whistling, whistling a lispy, dreamy, zeree, zeree, hurry, hurry. A male is singing, sweet you, sweet you, sweet you. A buzzy beer, beer, zizoo, zizoo. A female cries, husky and emphatic, witchity, witchity, witch, followed by the male's rigorous, see, see, see it? A bright, please, please, pleased to meet you, teeta, 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 teet. The new little voice chants. She is a girl child, see up with you, trilling chip, chippity, sugar sweet. This fine June morning, zeree, zizoo, a female birthed a female, witchity, see it? Okay, I'm gonna close with a fairly new one, and there it is. This is, there's a wonderful short story writer that many of you might have read, Italo Calvino, and he wrote these really sort of surreal science fiction stories. And one of his stories is the inspiration for this poem. The moon sometimes touches the ocean, and people climb onto her from a nearby ship. In my non-fiction life, the rainy season came, following the blood moon, bringing nights of thunder, cracking in sync with jabs of lightning, the dog shivering until the waning silver took shelter in our neighbor's redbud, a rosy crescent reclining in the crook of the highest bough. In the fiction of my life, the dog and I ventured out into the darkness, climb and spoon there until dawn. When I was young, I would have done just that, and the experience might have altered the future. Instead, I was conceived under a harvest moon and born in the glow of the strawberry moon. I became fertile when I was 10. For those years, my bleeding ebbed and flowed with the tides. Now I drift in my chronage with no eternal moon clock. I watch her rise and bathe in her light and shadows. Thank you very much.